And tonight's story is Roald Dahl, James and the Giant Peach, chapter 17. Now, you may remember the Giant Peach was rolling down the hill, down, until it came off the cliffs of Dover into the water and went smack. It hit the water with a colossal splash and sank like a stone. But a few seconds later, it came up again.
Why?
Because it was lighter than water. And it had air inside. And this time it stayed, floating serenely upon the surface of the water. Chapter 17. At this moment, the scene inside the Peach itself was one of indescribable chaos.
What's chaos?
Chaos is when everything's mixed up. If I take all your toys and throw them in the air and mix everything up, that's chaos. Or if everybody's running around not knowing where to go, that's chaos.
What?
Chaos is when nothing is in order, nothing's in its place where it should be. Everybody's...
What else is chaos?
Well, for example, if you had no traffic signs and all the cars got to a junction, they didn't know whether to turn left, right or straight on, that would be chaos because there'd be a big mess. Luckily we've got road signs so we know where to go. Right, so the scene inside the Peach itself was one of indescribable chaos. James Henry Trotter, as you know,
Where's Trotter?
that's his name, was lying bruised and battered on the floor of the room amongst a tangled mess of
Where's
centipede
Trotter?
and
It's
earthworm.
Trotter.
Sorry?
Where's Trotter?
That's his surname, like what your name is. You know your surname, don't you? Good.
Is that the surname?
Yes.
I thought it was not the one name.
Darling, family name means Thompson, right?
Yes.
Surname, family name.
Yes.
It's the same thing.
Yes.
Okay. Game over.
James Henry Trotter was lying bruised and battered on the floor of the room amongst a tangled mess of centipede and earthworm and spider and ladybird and glowworm and old green grasshopper
And centipede?
and centipede
And everyone?
and spider and earthworm
And yes.
and glowworm. In the whole history of the world, no travellers had ever had a more terrible journey than those unfortunate creatures. It had started out well, with much laughing and shouting, and for the first few seconds, as the Peach had begun to roll slowly forward, nobody had minded being tumbled about a bit. And then it went bump, and the centipede had shouted, "That was Aunt Sponge!" And then it went bump again, and the centipede shouted, "That was Aunt Spiker!" There had been a tremendous burst of cheering all round. But as soon as the Peach rolled out of the garden
Yeah?
and began to go down the steep hill, rushing and plunging and bounding madly downward, then the whole thing became a nightmare. James found himself being flung up against the ceiling, then back on the floor, then sideways against the wall, then back up on the ceiling again, and up and down, back and forth, and round, and at the same time all the other creatures were flying through the air in every direction, and so were the chairs and the sofa, not to mention the 42 boots belonging to the centipede. Everything and all of them were being rattled around like peas inside an enormous rattle that was being rattled by a mad giant who refused to stop. To make it worse, something went wrong with the glowworm's lighting system, and the room was in pitch darkness.
What's pitch?
Pitch darkness. Pitch darkness was absolute darkness. The room was in pitchy darkness. Pitch darkness.
Pitch. Darkness.
They've written pitchy, but I would say pitch.
Pitch. Pitch.
It's written pitchy darkness, but I would say
Pitch.
pitch darkness. Pitch darkness is dark as pitch, which is pitch was black tar. There were screams and yells and curses and cries of pain, and everything kept going round and round, and once James made a frantic grab at some thick bars sticking out from the wall, only to find that they were a couple of the centipede's legs.
Darin, machst du immer nur in
Let go, you idiot, shouted the centipede.
But the centipede.
Let go, shouted the centipede after James grabbed his legs. The centipede kicked himself free, and James was promptly flung across the room into the old green grasshopper's horny lap. Twice he got tangled up in Miss Spider's legs, a horrid business. And towards the end, the poor earthworm, who was cracking himself like a whip every time he flew through the air from one side of the room to the other, coiled himself around James's body in panic and refused to unwind. Oh, it was a frantic and terrible trip. But it was all over now, because they're in the sea, and the room was suddenly very still and quiet.
Did the F1 go up?
The what? Did what go up?
The F1.
Well, he coiled himself around James's body. Coiled around, like went round and round and round. That's a coil, like that, going round and round. So he coiled himself round and round and round and round James's body in fright. And the poor earthworm, who was cracking himself like a whip every time he flew through the air from one side of the room to the other, coiled himself around James's body in a panic and refused to unwind. Oh, it was a frantic and terrible ship. But it was all over now, and the room was suddenly very quiet and still. Everybody was beginning to slowly and painfully disentangle himself from everybody else. Let's have some light, shouted the centipede. Yes, they cried. Light, give us some light. I'm trying, answered the poor glowworm. I'm doing my best, please be patient. They all waited in silence. There was a faint greenish light which began to glimmer out of the glowworm's tail, and this gradually became stronger and stronger until it was anyway enough to see by. Some great journey, the centipede said, limping across the room. I shall never be the same again, muttered the earthworm. Nor I, the ladybird said. It's taken years off my life. But, my dear friends, cried the old green grasshopper, trying to be cheerful, we are there. Where? They asked. Where? Where is there? I don't know, the old green grasshopper said, but I'll bet it's somewhere good. We're probably at the bottom of a coal mine, the earthworm said gloomily. We certainly went down and down very suddenly at the last moment. I felt it in my stomach. I still feel it. Perhaps we're in the middle of a beautiful country full of songs and music, the old green grasshopper said. The old green grasshopper said. Or near the seashore, said James eagerly, with lots of other children down on the sand for me to play with. Wishful thinking. Pardon me, murmured the ladybird, turning a trifle pale, but am I wrong in thinking that we seem to be bobbing up and down?
Who said that?
The ladybird said that, and she's right. They are bobbing up and down on the waves of the sea. Bobbing up and down, they cried. What on earth do you mean? You're still giddy from the journey, the old green grasshopper told her. You'll get over it in a minute. Is everybody ready to go upstairs and take a look around? Yes, yes, they shouted. Come on, let's go. I refuse to show myself outdoors in my bare feet, the centipede said, and I have to get my boots on first. Oh, for heaven's sake, let's not all go through that nonsense again, said the earthworm. Let's all lend Centipede a hand and get over with, the ladybird said. Come on! So they all did, except Miss Spider, who was already weaving a long rope ladder that would reach from the floor up to a hole in the ceiling. the old green grasshopper had wisely said that they must not risk going out of the side entrance when they didn't know where they were, but must first of all get up to the top of the peach and have a look around. So, a little bit more?
Yes.
Okay, a little bit more. So, half an hour later, when the rope ladder had been finished and hung, and the 42nd boot had been laced neatly on the centipede's 42nd foot, they were all ready to go out. Amidst mounting excitement and shouts of, "Here we go! Here we go, boys! The promised land, I can't wait to see it!" The whole company climbed up the ladder, one by one, and disappeared into a dark, soggy tunnel in the ceiling that went steeply, almost vertically upwards. So they're going to look outside and see where they are. That was the end of chapter 17. Next time we'll read chapter 18. No, I'm too tired. I'm falling asleep too. Sorry about that.
I don't have mommy to tell me stories.
What do you want?
I want mommy to tell me stories.
Well, maybe she will. I can't influence that. Good night, my little boy.